Summary of Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. The novel Mansfield Park is about the main character, Fanny Price, as she goes through childhood and young adulthood. Fanny is sent to live with her Aunt Lady Bertram and Uncle Sir Thomas at their country home, Mansfield Park, when she is a child. Mrs. Price is Fanny's mother and Lady Bertram's sister. She is from a lower class, and her marriage to Mr. Price, a Navy officer, was a bad choice. Together, they have too many children to care for, so Lady Bertram, Sir Thomas, and Fanny's other aunt, Mrs. Norris, come up with a plan to take in Fanny, who is her oldest daughter. Fanny grows up with her 4 cousins at Mansfield. Their names are Tom, Edmund, Maria, and Julia. When Fanny first gets to Mansfield, she feels out of place because she doesn't know how to act properly and isn't used to seeing so much wealth and luxury. She misses her home and her brother William, who she is very close to. In Fanny's early years at Mansfield, her family tends to ignore her, and Mrs. Norris is so mean to her niece that she could be called a dictator. Only her cousin Edmund goes out of his way to make Fanny feel at ease, which makes them very close. As Fanny gets older, she gets used to the way of life at Mansfield. Fanny is Lady Bertram's friend, and when the rest of the family goes out, she stays at home with her shy aunt. Mr. Norris, Mrs. Norris's husband, dies in the end, so Mrs. Norris moves out of the parsonage and into a nearby house. Edmund should have gotten his money, but Tom has a gaming problem and needs to pay back his bills with the money that was set aside. Dr. Grant, a new preacher, and his wife, Mrs. Grant, move into the parsonage. Sir Thomas goes to Antigua for business, and because his son Tom is so careless, he takes him with him. Maria, on the other hand, gets the attention of Mr. Rushworth, who is rich but not very smart. They start dating. Mr. Rushworth asks Maria to marry him, and both she and Sir Thomas agree, as long as they wait to get married until Sir Thomas gets back from the West Indies. Mary and Henry Crawford, Mrs. Grant's half-siblings, come to stay with her that summer. They are both pretty and charming, and the Bertrams like them right away. Sir Thomas will follow Tom back from the West Indies in the late fall. Even though Maria is engaged, Henry flirts with both Julia and Maria. The Bertram children, the Crawfords, and Fanny all go to Mr. Rushworth's farm together. While there, Henry flirts with Maria, which makes Julia feel sad. At the same time, Mary and Edmund start to feel love feelings for each other. This hurts Fanny, who has grown to love Edmund as more than just her cousin over the years. After hearing that Tom's friend Mr. Yates did the same thing at another party, the kids decide to put on a play. Edmund and Fanny say it wouldn't be right, but Edmund joins them in the end. But Fanny does not give up. Maria and Henry keep making out. Edmund and Mary's love grows, and it hurts Fanny a lot to watch them act out their love scenes. They get everything ready for the play, but Sir Thomas comes back from Antigua just as it's about to start. He gets mad at them because he thinks their acting is totally wrong, and he stops the fun. Maria had hoped that Henry would ask her to marry him, but she gives up on that goal and marries Mr. Rushworth instead. She and Julia go with him to Brighton, and then they go to London. Mary and Fanny get closer to each other. Now that the other young women have left, Henry chooses to try to charm Fanny as a game. Fanny, on the other hand, is still quietly in love with Edmund, and the love between Mary and Edmund is a constant source of pain for her. Edmund tries to find out if Mary will marry him, but she won't say yes because Edmund is the younger son, has no money, and is a priest. William, Fanny's brother, comes to visit, and Sir Thomas, who likes Fanny more now that he's back from Antigua, throws a formal ball in her honor. Henry hasn't been able to seduce Fanny for fun, but he fell in love with her while he was trying. He goes to London, where he gets William a raise so that he can win Fanny's love. He then makes a proposal to Fanny, but she turns him down, which Sir Thomas doesn't like at all. Not long after that, Fanny goes back to Portsmouth, where she grew up, for the first time in a long time. Fanny hates Portsmouth, but she and her younger sister, Susan, become close. Henry goes to Portsmouth to see Fanny and tell her how much he loves her. Fanny starts to like him, and Mary tells her she should marry him. Soon after that, though, Fanny hears that Tom is very sick. She worries and wishes she could go back to Mansfield. Fanny then hears that Henry and Maria have left together. In a note, Edmund says that the reports are true and that Julia and Mr. Yates have run away together. Fanny goes back to her home in Mansfield with her sister Susan. When Edmund tells Mary about Maria and Henry's affair, Mary doesn't judge them for what they did. Instead, she is upset that they were caught. Because of this, Edmund is disgusted and breaks up with her, which makes Fanny very happy. Henry is no longer welcome in the Bertram home at all. Maria, who is now ashamed, leaves Mansfield to live with Mrs. Norris in a house far away. Julia and Mr. Yates try to make up with Sir Thomas, and they are given a second chance. The Grant family and Mary leave Mansfield and move to London. Edmund starts to think about Fanny as a possible relationship partner for the first time, and he finally falls in love with her. They get married and live together happily.
About the author. Jane Austen was one of 7 children born to George and Cassandra Austen in Steventon, England, where Austen's father worked as a priest. Even though George and Cassandra were members of the English elite, they were not very rich. At age 25, Austen moved to Bath, England, with her family. 9 years later, she moved to Chawton, England, where she wrote Mansfield Park. Austen wrote and released her 6 books, such as Pride and Prejudice and Emma, under a false name. After she died, they were only released under her own name.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.